Hello and a very warm welcome to Oschersleben in Germany for this qualifying session ahead of rounds 13 and 14 of the 2017 TCR International Series. Good afternoon everyone, this is Mark James in the commentary box talking you through the next 35-40 minutes or so, which will decide the grids for both of tomorrow's TCR International Series races here in Germany. It's been a mixed day, I think it's been fair to say. The whole area had a power cut overnight because of lightning strikes and then a major fire taking out part of the electricity infrastructure. But we're back in business, 2 free practice sessions this morning, and this is where we are. It's the Motorsport Arena in Oschersleben. We're midway between Hanover and Berlin in what used to be East Germany. A circuit that celebrates its 20th birthday this year, 3.696 kilometers, and a very tight, twisty circuit which should, in theory, favour the likes of the Seats and the Volkswagens, but you never know with the TCR International Series. Lots of people talking up their chances this weekend, and also we've seen the balance of performance adjustment, which takes weight off every single one of the 7 brands represented here in Germany this weekend. They either lose 10 or 20 kilos. Plus, there's the small matter of Stefano Camini, who had 30 kilos of success ballast last time out in Hungary 3 weeks ago. And he is success ballast free. There is Camini, the reigning TCR champion. He heads the entry list. 23 of the 24 cars entered have made it here to Oschersleben this weekend. There is 1 car missing from the entry list that you may well have seen on the internet. And there it is, car 31, the Audi of Milovan Vesnic, the ASK Vesnic racing team, not here in Oschersleben for whatever reason. And so we have 23 of 24 cars to show you this afternoon. A few new names, one name returning to the series after deputising for Rob Huff earlier in the year. Jaap van Lagen joins the Leopard Racing WRT Volkswagen team for the remainder of the series. And that team's aim, purely and simply, to get Jean-Carl Venet the driver's title. That's our 3-time winner from this season. That's Roberto Colciago, driving for Mira Racing. His teammate, Attila Tashi, won both races last time out in Hungary in front of a delighted home crowd. The team also on home soil, and so they were absolutely delighted with the result. And so it's Tashi that leads the Drivers' Series as the championship arrives here in Oschersleben. Temperatures have been climbing throughout the day. We started in free practice 1 with air temperatures of around 21 degrees. As you can see, I wouldn't say a cloudy sky, lots of blue, but it's extremely humid and I suppose potentially the kind of weather that makes you think about punctures and tyre wear. We've already seen quite a few drivers suffer from punctures so far this morning, among them Attila Tashi. who is our Drivers' Series leader. Celebrated his 18th birthday just before the Hungarian rounds. And it's been something of a good couple of weeks for the teenagers in the TCR Series, in that free practice 1 this morning. The quickest driver was 17-year-old Luca Engstler, making his debut in the TCR International Series. He also runs in TCR Germany this weekend, and a familiar surname, of course, to touring car fans because it's his dad's team. And Franz telling Alfredo Filippone earlier on that he's not quite finished with competing just yet, and he would very much like to do an endurance event with his son in one of the team's Volkswagens. There is Pepe Oriola, runner-up to Camini in year 1 of the International Series. Really still needs to get his championship campaign in gear. After this weekend in Germany, we have a 7-week break until the final 3 rounds of the series get underway in Thailand at Buriram on the first weekend of September. We've got Thailand in September, China in October, and then we're in the Middle East to finish off the year in November. But Oriola and many of the others, Vernet amongst them, Camini, could all do with a bit of a morale boost this weekend ahead of that mid-season break or summer break here in Europe. And so victories and podiums are what are desperately wanted by some of the drivers this weekend. Tashi admits that it's going to be tough with the success ballast, and also the balance of performance adjustment doesn't really favour the Hondas. So you have to say it's these cars, the Seats of Lukoil Craft Bamboo, and the Volkswagens of Leopard, WRT, and also potentially West Coast Racing that could come into their own here in Germany this weekend. It was Gianni Morbidelli in the West Coast Racing Volkswagen that was quickest in free practice 2. The team putting in quite a bit of work in getting to understand the car. I think they'll admit that they've left it too late in the series to have any realistic chance of tilting at the titles, but it would be good for them, particularly Volkswagen at home this weekend, to get a victory. We shall see what happens. James Nash there as runner-up to Camini last year. He's behind Oriola in the point standings, and so he was telling us that while there's a mathematical chance of winning the title, he will carry on, but he, like Oriola, could do with a good result here in Germany this weekend. A decent crowd, even though it's the Saturday, it's qualifying day. A festival of motorsport here at the Motorsport Arena in Oschersleben this weekend. 2 International Series races, 2 TCR Germany races, Formula 4. There's all sorts of racing action for the fans to see. And flying the colours for Alfa Romeo. They'll be cheering on the GE Force Alfa Romeo Giuliettas that we've not seen as yet in this session of Dusan Borkovic and David Kajaya. There is Rob Huff, former world champion. And he's on board for the remainder of the year. No more racing clash commitments with him. And Jaap van Lagen rejoins the team and indeed will stay as part of the Leopard team for the remainder of the year in their bid to get Vernet the driver's title. So Q1 is underway. The usual 20-minute first stage of qualifying. All 23 cars will take part. It's the fastest 12 that go through to Q2. And then at the end of Q2, it's the top 10 that will form the grid for race 1, and the reversed top 10 will form the grid for race 2. There are the Opals. There is Duncan Indy in the Icarus Motorsport Seat. And there, very briefly, you saw Aurélien Panis, a famous surname, of course, in motor racing, joining the TCR series for the remainder of the year in the Boutsen Gignon Honda Civic. But there was Stefano Camini. There is Dusan Borkovic in the aforementioned Alfa Romeo. And it was Camini that forced the red flag at the end of free practice 1, when he went off through the gravel, dragging a whole load of gravel onto the track surface. And a whole load of drivers went off, among them Dan Lloyd in the Lukoil Craft Bamboo Seat. And it was the position of that car that forced the red flags to come out with only about 4 minutes of the session remaining. And so that was that. And in free practice 2, It was Danny Cruz of the Ferry Monster team in the Seat who went off again with less than 5 minutes of the session remaining, the session then being red flagged because of repairs necessary to the barriers. But Comini, if you were with us earlier for free practice 2, really on the ragged edge, set a really, really quick time, and then the following lap, the car kind of bit back and flicked sideways as he went through the chicane. There is the Kia Ceed of Ferenc Fizer of Hungary in the Zengo Motorsport traditional bright green livery, and quite a subdued weekend so far for that car, because the team admitting, because they got it so late before the Hungarian round, they got it lucky with the setup, but really for this round they have work to do to get the car working properly, as Van Lagen awaits the thumbs up to head out on track. And there he goes. So the two Opels running together of Hommler and Demoustier. You saw two of the Lukoil Craft Bamboo cars running together. There's Panis on his own in the Boutsen Gignon, the orange and black car. Now the team entered their home event in Spa. Great result for young Benjamin Lessens in that event. But they're rejoining the series for the rest of the season with Aurélien Panis. There's our championship leader, Attila Tashi. 30 kilos of success ballast. The only other driver carrying success ballast, incidentally, this weekend is Pepe Oriola, as the 20 kilos of ballast for the second best scorer in the previous round in Hungary went to Norbert Mikelic, who of course isn't here as a driver anyway. He's here in the team management role. So the only two cars carrying ballast, Tashi with 30 kilos and Oriola with 10. And Dan Lloyd was the man who went off into the gravel caused by Comini's misdemeanor at the end of free practice 1. No lasting damage. And indeed into the pits comes Stefano Comini. So lap times in this session so far. Best is Attila Tashi with a 1:37.9. To give you an idea, quickest so far all day has been Luca Engstler, quickest in free practice 1 with a 1:32.04. So 5 seconds, 6 seconds or so to come off that time of Tashi. And we're not even a quarter of the way through the session as yet. Tashi, though, on a bit of a flyer. Gold lozenge in sector 1, 1.6 seconds, 3.1 up in sector 2. And that's the pit entrance there. So he comes around turn 14. He'll head up to take the timing beam on the start-finish line. So Tashi, the first to set a representative lap time in this qualifying session, a 1:33.181 for Tashi. Oriola, though, also on a charge. His best sector 1 time, best sector 2 time of all. As we look at Jens Reno Moller, and again, problems for him. He had all sorts of issues in free practice 2 with going off. Whether that's overdriving or struggling against the setup, I don't know, as Oriola dashes for the line. He takes the timing beam and goes quickest with a 1:33.082, so 900ths of a second, 99,000ths to be exact, quicker than Tashi, as Morbidelli takes his turn, 1:33.009, 700ths quicker than Oriola. So the time's now starting to tumble. And we are seeing track limit issues coming in. There is only one place on the circuit where the race director said yesterday that a judge of fact would be watching for track limit infringements, and that's the chicane at turns 8 and 9. At turn 9, you can cut the chicane, and so the track has put folding barriers or barriers that flap down, so if you hit them they'll knock down and come back up, but then it's really easy for the marshal to see whether that is a problem. As Tashi comes round, having gone quickest of all in Sector 1, can he improve? No indeed, Tashi stays at P3. Morbidelli it is then so far that is quickest, ahead of Oriola, Tashi, Altoe, Colciago, Homola, Vernet, Borkovic, Huff and Panis. And so we're starting to see cars having track limits infringements penalised. So Oriola, car 74, has been penalised, has had a lap, his quickest lap disallowed. As again, Moller is off the track, and look at the gravel that's been dragged on, so that may well cause issues. And that looks to be the same place where Comini went off. That's turn 7. Let's just take a look at it. Indeed, yeah, on the exit of 6, just getting it wrong, as Jean-Carl Vernet goes P2. Now, what, if anything, is the race director going to do about all the gravel down there? Van Lagen goes up to P11. Dan Lloyd goes P2 now. And indeed, red flag. So we were just looking at Tashi, who's already had the message and has backed off. And in comes Tashi. So the clock has stopped. 12 minutes just under of the session remaining. And it's Gianni Morbidelli so far who is quickest, ahead of Dan Lloyd, Jean-Carl Vernet, Pepe Oriola, Matteo Homola, Roberto Colciago, James Nash, Attila Tashi, Rob Huff, Aurelien Panis, Jaap van Lagen and Giacomo Altoe. That's the top 12. So those currently are the 12 that'll go through to Q2. But we do have the small matter of 12 minutes of this Q1 session remaining. So how quickly can the marshals get that gravel swept up? As we see Rob Huff coming into the pits. Long pit entry lane here at Oschersleben. You saw the white line there, which is where the 60 kilometers an hour speed limit starts. And that's the scale of the problem. So the marshals have already been in action several times today, not just in international, but in other series as well, clearing up gravel. As Dusan Borkovic picks his way through the gravel, we'll see, I suspect, the road sweeper come out shortly, and a series of marshals with brooms. So everything's on hold. And just looking down the order, I see that all 23 cars, there indeed is the road sweeper. And the driver is a busy man today. All 23 cars have set at least one lap. Danny Cruz in the Seat, the Ferry Monster Seat, was the car that crashed heavily at the end of FP2, but he is out. Let's head down to the pit lane. Vincent Vos is with Alfredo.
Vincent Vos, a three-car effort for this race. It's becoming hot for the championship.
Well, I mean, it was a good chance to be here with a third car, and we've been lucky that we could do it. Yeah, and it's normally it should be quite a good track for us. I mean, it's a track which suits the car. So yeah, it was time to do an effort for championship points.
We see a lot of interruptions in the sessions. It's going to be a tricky weekend.
Well, as we saw in free practice, we saw exactly the same situation. They had to red flag the free practice for the same reason. Well, yeah, I mean, it would be difficult. We saw only one car could, I think Jean-Carl could qualify the car, but okay, 12 minutes to go, but it's always a tricky situation for tires.
Good luck.
Let's just take a look at where his cars are. Jean-Carl Vernet currently P3. Rob Huff is P9 and Jaap van Lagen P11. So as things currently stand, all three of the Leopard WRT cars are in the top 12. And that's the incident that's caused all that gravel to be spread out around turn 7. Jens Renaud Moller, not having the best weekend, you have to say. Currently 16th. And a second road sweeper coming in. Do you know, I don't think this is going to take that much longer. The marshals, as ever, doing a great job. And there's the message from race control. Restart at 3:15, so that's just over 3 minutes from now. So let's take a look down the order behind the top 12. At the moment, Borkovic P13, de Moustier 14, Fitzer 15th, Moller, we talked about 16th, Stefano Camini 17th, Vervish in the other Come To You Audi 18th, Luca Engschler 19th, Kajaya 20th, Duncan Indy 21st, Stian Paulsen 22nd, and Danny Cruz 23rd. So I would say Camini and Luca Engschler, definitely 2 to watch. Engschler, you recall, quickest in free practice 1, making his international series debut, but he does an awful lot of testing here at Oschersleben. Back down to the pit lane and Alfredo Filippone.
Claudio Bortoletto, a new car here in Oschersleben after the accident in Hungary. How is it going?
Well, the car is okay, the driver are happy, and we will see now on the qualifying. Unfortunately, it's a red flag at the moment, but we are very confident.
The car is ready, the new car of David Kajaya.
Yeah, the car is ready, it's okay, the driver is happy. Everything is okay for the moment.
Any changes, technical?
We changed the turbo for the new regulation from the TCR, but we are happy.
Good, all the best.
Thank you.
Alfredo trying to find out if there were any technical changes, but they're never going to tell him about setup changes, are they? So there is Borkovic's car just coming down off the jacks. We're now a little over a minute away, something like a minute and 20 seconds until we restart, and just over 12 minutes remaining on the clock for this Q1. There'll then be a 5-minute break, and then it's the 10-minute Q2, which will decide the grids for both of tomorrow's races. And you can see the heat haze now. It's a beautiful afternoon here in what was the former East Germany. Temperatures climbing, and the thunderstorm that the temperatures triggered last night are what probably caused the fire, that caused the power cut, that caused all sorts of delays this morning. And so I have to say another thunderstorm tonight would do wonders for the temperatures, just as long as it's not quite so destructive. So 30 seconds then until we go green again for the resumption of this Q1 at Oschersleben. So far then it's Gianni Morbidelli who is quickest, ahead of Dan Lloyd, Jean Calvinet, Pepe Oriola, Matteo Homola, Roberto Colciago, James Nash, Attila Tashi, Rob Huff, Aurelian Panis, Jaap van Lagen, and Giacomo Altoe. And those are the 12 drivers that will go through to Q2 if things stay as they are. But as you well know from the TCR International Series, anything can and usually does happen. So the procession of cars then heads out. Interesting once again to see the tactics. Van Lagen wanting to wait until he's got a clear track ahead of him. 2 of the 3 Lukoil Craft Bamboo cars running together. I'm not sure how much of an effect the slipstream will have here. 2 relatively short straights, the longer of which is the start-finish straight, and there's the stadium straight between turns 10 and 11 at the back of the circuit, but certainly nothing like the long slogs that you have at somewhere like Monza or indeed at the Salzburg Ring. So what can Camini do? Currently 17th. And running just behind his teammate there, Frederick Vervish, currently 18th. Lots of home races this weekend for Audi, for Volkswagen, for Opel. And a lot of fans expected tomorrow, but also guests from the various brands involved who have come to see their cars do well. Dan Lloyd, currently P2, so playing the waiting game. What does he need to do? Because remember, at this stage, as long as you go through to Q2, that's job done. Morbidelli's best lap, a 1:32.064. So that's slightly slower, 200th slower than Luca Engstler's best lap in free practice 1 this morning. So the two Audis on their first flying lap. Slightly scruffy line from Vervish through turn 1. They're in the long right-hander now at turn 2. When I spoke to Camini earlier to ask if there was a problem, which is why he went off scattering the gravel in free practice 1, he said, not really. I'm just not used to having such a light car. 20 kilos of balance of performance adjustment and the loss, of course, of the 30 kilos of success ballast he had in Hungary. Now that's the corner that I was talking about earlier, where the track limits will be observed. Everywhere else, they can pretty much do as they like, from what race director was saying yesterday at the driver's briefing. But there is a judge of fact watching turn 9, and particularly to see that collapsible barrier, the flapping barrier that can be hit as Camini bounces across the curb. So improvements in both sectors 1 and 2 for both the Audis. They come round turn 14. They head up to the timing beam at the start-finish line. So Camini P17, and he improves to P13. So just outside the top 12. Oriola improves to 2nd. Vervish has improved to 10th. Kajaya, though, leaps to 3rd. So those Alfa Romeo fans we saw earlier on sitting up on the grandstand will be happy. David Kajaya. Oh, and he's had his lap time cancelled. So track limits for Kajaya. Failed to manage track limit, so that must have been at turn 9, which we didn't see. And so the relevant lap time has been cancelled. Engstler goes quickest. Luca Engstler with a 1:32.024. 400ths quicker than Gianni Morbidelli. So there is our new quickest driver, 17-year-old Luca Engstler. As across the line goes Jaap van Lagen, who goes quickest. And Van Lagen's had the lap time disallowed. So no sooner that he goes quickest that it's been disallowed. So Engstler back on top of the timesheets once again. So it's Engstler from Morbidelli, from Oriola, from Lloyd, who's still in the pits. In fact, on an outlap is Dan Lloyd. I can just see on my timing screen. Venet P5, Homola P6, Tashi 7. There is Venet, green in sectors 1 and 2. Altoe, gold in sector 1. Hard on the brakes for this right-hander now at turn 14. Venet will run across the curb, up to the timing beam. P4 for Venet. P6 for Huff. P7 now for Kajaya. Altoe goes P5, so both of the West Coast Racing Volkswagens in the top 5 at the moment. Demoustier up to P17, immediately replaced, down to 18 again. And despite the fact that the track limits are only being observed at the 1 place, Kajaya, Demoustier, Panis, Fitzer and Moller have all had lap times disallowed. Van Lagen goes P2. So it's Morbidelli from Van Lagen. Engstler drops to 3rd. He's in the pits, as is Pepe Oriola 4th. Venet is 5th. Under 6 minutes of the session remaining. Colchiago goes 11th. And the man currently in 12th place is Dan Lloyd. So that's the reason that he came back out. So our lap times have improved then. We're now in the 1:31s for Morbidelli and Van Lagen. Morbidelli a 1:31.421. Van Lagen a 1:31.553. Then it's Engstler, 1:32.024. Then Oriola, then Vernet, Altoe, Nash, Hommler, Huff. Paulsen has got up to 10th. And Colchiago currently 11th ahead of Dan Lloyd. And something like 9/10 of a second split the top 8. It's that close. Borkovic goes up to P13. He'll need to improve if he's to make it through to Q2. And Lloyd improving. His best sector times in both sectors 1 and 2. Lloyd currently P12. And all 3 of the Lukoil Craft Bamboo cars currently in the top 12. What can Lloyd do? Oh, that's nice. We'll take that. Thank you very much. P5, as Duncan Indy gets it wrong at turn 7. Through the gravel and across the grass. Kajaya. Not such a great lap from him. Kajaya currently P15. Fitzer, though, improving, P19 currently. So no change at the top of the order. Morbidelli then from Van Lagen. Luca Engstler P3, Oriola 4th, Lloyd 5th. Out goes Comini, who's currently 18th. And Moller running slowly with a puncture. We've seen a few this weekend, and the talk before this session, because of the temperatures, potentially punctures could be an issue. Oriola sitting tight, currently P4, with a little over 3 minutes of the session remaining. And another cancellation of a lap time for Fitzer. So Fitzer currently 19th, and off your timing screen on the left-hand side of your screen. So Comini on his outlap currently. As Danny Cruz goes past, Comini picks up the pace now, so he'll have an empty track ahead of him. De Moustier. His best sector 2 time, an improvement of 2 seconds for De Moustier, but he's down 22nd at the moment. A 1:34.18 was his best lap time. He heads up for the line, takes the timing beam, but no indeed, doesn't improve. De Moustier still 22nd. So currently, 6 of the top 7 are in the pits, preferring to play the waiting game. So Morbidelli, Van Lagen, Engstler, Dan Lloyd in 5th, Jean Calvinet in 6th, and Altoe in 7th, all in the pits. Oriola's on an outlap. Huff currently 10th, he comes in. Borkovic is in the pits, he's 13th. And Comini running slowly. What happened there? Let's take another look. Big slide and onto the grass. Very untidy from Stefano Comini. That's not what he wanted. Currently 18th. And with dirty tyres now. So a minute for Stefano to cross the line, which means he can do another lap. Vervish currently 16th. He's done his best sector 1 time, but then throws it away in sector 2. Kamini comes through the chicane at 8 and 9. This is going to be tight, whether he's going to get across the line to be able to start another lap. Borkovic, though, in the pits. P13. Oh, shake of the head from Dusan. So as things currently stand, both the Alphas are outside the top 12 and both are in the pits. Kajaya is 15th, Borkovic 13th. Kamini comes around turn 14. He heads up for the line, less than 10 seconds. He should be fine. He does it with about 4 seconds to spare. So a last gasp attempt from Stefano Kamini. He's currently 18th. Flying around the right-hander at turn 2. This is where he got it wrong last time. Oriola's taken the checkered flag. That's the session over for him. He's P4, so as things currently stand, he'll go through to Q2. We'll stay with Kamini. Oh, overcooks it again, gets the back of the car sideways. And this looks like Kamini has blown his final chance to get through into the top 12. Flinging the car through the chicane. It's neat, but it's not going to get him any further. Tashi up to P13, displacing Borkovic. But the Honda, I wouldn't have thought, will go through to Q2. So all of the top 11 have either taken the checkered flag or are in the pits. Paulsen currently P12. Kamini comes around turn 14. He heads up for the timing beam, but you can see the black lozenges tell their own story. And Kamini does a 1:33.397, doesn't improve, so P18 for him. And you can see the disappointed faces at Come To You. Vervish also doesn't go through, P16 for him. So, with only 2 drivers still out on track, Aurelien Panis and Ferenc Fizer, and indeed Fizer comes into the pits. So it's only Panis who's currently still out on track. He's currently 17th, and I'm not sure if he can do anything about the top 12. Let's run down the positions that go through then. Gianni Morbidelli quickest in this Q1, ahead of Jaap van Lagen, Luca Enstler, Pepe Oriola, Daniel Lloyd, Jean-Carl Venet, Giacomo Altoe, James Nash, Matteo Homola, Roberto Colciago, Rob Huff, and Stian Paulsen. Those are the 12 that are currently going through to Q2. And Panis, who you see there at P17, I'm seeing still on my timing screen as being out on the circuit, but I think that may be an error. Okay, let's head back down to the pit lane to talk to one of the drivers not going through to Q2. It's Dusan Borkovic.
Dusan Borkovic, it was a close one, but you missed the threshold.
Yeah, it was difficult, a little bit better than in Hungary, but these really slow circuits doesn't fit to our car. We have a little bit smaller engine. Much bigger turbo lag than the other cars, and I had at the end some problems with the car. Again, something with the steering, but I was really close. But when I see the front guys, they were much faster. Last year I was a pole position here by 3/10, and both races in P2. But this year is impossible.
And it looks like it's very difficult this time with all the gravel and all the runoffs.
For me? Or
for everybody.
Yeah, but everybody are cutting the first, and I think that everybody are pushing too much, which is normal, but unfortunately we missed this time again Q2, and I hope that tomorrow we can catch at least some point, but it will be very, very difficult. I hope more for the Thailand. I think that suits better to our car.
Okay, thank you.
We need also less weight now with a standard turbo and with a 1.7 engine is really difficult.
Well noted. Thank you.
Get the mention in about balance of performance, Dusan. There comes Mrs. B. Just under 0.2 of a second are all that stood between Dusan and the top 12, incidentally. But he was P14 at the end and so misses out, as does David Kajaya. So, both Mr. and Mrs. Borkovic relegated then to spectators for this second stage of qualifying here at Oschersleben. Gianni Morbidelli then quickest from Jaap van Lagen, from Luca Engstler, from Oriola, Lloyd, Vernet, Altoe, Nash, Homola, Colciago. Interestingly, all three of the Lukoil Craft Bamboo cars go through, as do all three of the Leopard cars, with Jaap van Lagen, Huff, you see there at P11, and Jean Calvinet going through to Q2. Both of the West Coast Racing Volkswagens also through, Altoe and Morbidelli. And we were always looking at the Seats and the Volkswagens. Because of the balance of performance change, we did think that potentially the Audis would be a little better off here. But as we saw earlier in the year, when Vivish got pole and Comini got his 2 victories, they do prefer the longer straights. Vivish on pole, remember, at Monza, and Comini winning at Spa and the second race at Monza. So what could they have salvaged? What can they still salvage from this far twistier track at Oschersleben? So 10 of the 12 cars now out on track. We're still waiting for Huff and Paulsen to come out of the pits. And Altoe tucked in behind Colciago. So Paulsen, out he comes. We're still waiting for Rob Huff, the only one of the 12 not to have left the pit lane. And Huff is now out of the pit lane. All 12 cars then on track. We're already 2 minutes into this 10-minute Q2 thrash. This shootout which will decide both grids for tomorrow's 2 races. Race 1, incidentally, 12:35 tomorrow, Central European time. Race 2 at 14:35. And, of course, races will be streamed live on our Facebook page, on the websites and on YouTube. Huffy then, on his own, clear track in front, clear track behind. What can the former world champion do to help his teammate Jean Calvinet this weekend? There is JK. So just starting the first of his flying laps. Briefly saw there the change to turn 1. Last year, the very tight square left-hander at turn 1. Changed this year to the old circuit layout, the earlier entry into the left-hander at turn 1, a smoother entry, which may potentially help overtaking, but it's there primarily to stop any risk of the pack bunching up and colliding at turn 1 on the first laps. Not just for the International Series, but for TCR Germany, where there were something like 40 entries this weekend. So then, let's see the first representative lap times then as James Nash and Pepe Oriola head for the line. Oriola already sets a 1:31.954. Morbidelli betters it, though, with a 1:31.908. Homola, a 1:32.191. James Nash, a 1:32.444. Colciago, something like 0.8 slower than Morbidelli. Altoe, slowest of the 7 that have crossed the line so far. So first blood then to Gianni Morbidelli, already under the 1:32 lap time barrier, as is Pepe Oriola. 46 thousandths of a second split the pair. Luca Enschler does a 1:32.990 as Jaap van Lagen heads for the line. Van Lagen gold in sectors 1 and 2. He crosses the line, goes P2. 1:31.914. 6 thousandths of a second behind Gianni Morbidelli. So Volkswagen 1 and 2 so far. Then it's the Seat of Pepe Oriola, the Opel of Matto Homola. Then it's Nash in a Seat, Colciago in a Honda. Then Enschler, Volkswagen, Altoe, Volkswagen. And already gold in both sectors 1 and 2 for Morbidelli on his next lap. Up to the line goes Huff. P5 for Huff, a 1:32.323. Oriola goes quickest, a 1:31. Immediately bettered by Morbidelli, a 1:31.426. So Morbidelli then, from Oriola, from Van Lagen, from Nash. Colciago goes P5. Homola, P7 now. Colciago drops to 6th as Nash goes P5. Morbidelli determined to show that the team have finally got to grips with the Volkswagen. Van Lagen, quickest of all in Sector 1, his best Sector 2 time. Van Lagen currently 4th. Dan Lloyd goes P2. So it's Morbidelli from Lloyd, from Oriola, Altoe. Van Lagen crosses the line now, second quickest. So Volkswagen's once again 1 and 2, Morbidelli from Van Lagen. Then it's the two Seats of Lloyd and Oriola. Altoe 5th, Nash 6th, Colciago 7th, Homola 8th, Enschler 9th, Jean Calvinet 10th, Rob Huff 11th, Paulsen 12th. Morbidelli again on a flyer, gold lozenges sectors 1 and 2. He comes around turn 14, heading for the line. A 1:31.426, his best lap so far. Not quite, a 1:31.449. So 200ths of a second or thereabouts just off the pace, but consistently lapping under 1:32. Homola, tucked in the slipstream. So Homola P9, Enschler P10. Remember, the reverse top 10 is the grid for race 2. Van Lagen charging again. Quickest of all in Sector 1, his best Sector 2 time. Currently second. Something like 8 seconds remaining until he crosses the line. No, indeed. 1:31.706 that lap. So again, like Morbidelli, Van Lagen consistently lapping in the under 1:32 bracket. Let's pick up Roberto Colciago in the number 5 Honda. There he is behind Enschler. Colciago, best Sector 1 time of all. Currently Colciago is 8th. His best Sector 2 time. Colciago, a 3-time race winner this year, but hasn't been on pole position. Just gets it slightly sideways coming around turn 14. He heads for the line. No, indeed. Loses it in Sector 3. Colciago remains 8th, so second row for race 2. Morbidelli still quickest of all. Vernet, though, his best sector times in 1 and 2. Vernet currently P11. He crosses the line now and goes P9, bumping Enschler down to 11th. Homola now 10th. But Morbidelli still on provisional pole for race 1. It's Morbidelli from Van Lagen, from Dan Lloyd, Huff, Oriola. As Engstler pulls up, we may see a repeat of that, a replay. Engstler P11, and that's brought out the yellow flags. It's happened in turn 1. We're looking at Huff, as Paulsen has improved his sector 2 time. That's not an issue because the yellow flags are straight on at turn 1. Completely missed the braking point. In fact, I'm wondering if Engstler's brakes have completely gone. That took a long time to stop. Did I also see damage to the rear of the car? So then the clock ticks down. We're within the last 10 seconds of this Q2. Yellow flags are still out at turn 1. Morbidelli comes into the pits. Job done. The checkered flag falls. It's Morbidelli from Van Lagen, from Lloyd, Huff, Oriola, Altoe, Nash, Colciago, Vernet, Homola, Engstler, and Paulsen. Dan Lloyd, P3. James Nash, P7. So that's a second row start for him in the second race. And what happened there? Gravel, possibly? As Luca Engstler out of the car, thumps the barrier and strolls back to the pits. So cars start to come into Parc Fermé at the end of Q2, and it doesn't look as though anybody's on a charge, so it looks like this then. Gianni Morbidelli will start race 1 tomorrow from pole position. His first pole of the year, and one, you have to say, that gives huge encouragement to the West Coast Racing team. Jaap van Lagen in the Leopard Volkswagen will start alongside. Row 2 will be Dan Lloyd and Rob Huff, with Pepe Oriola and Giacomo Altoe on row 3. Row 4 will be James Nash and Roberto Colciago, with Jean-Carl Vernet starting alongside Matto Homola, 9th and 10th. The two drivers who miss out, starting 11th and 12th for both races, will be Luca Engstler and Stian Paulsen, respectively. The reverse grid then will see Matto Homola on pole position with Jean-Carl Vernet alongside him. So that's a turn up for the books, isn't it? Homola, already having been on pole so far this year, will start race 2 from pole, but Gianni Morbidelli, his first pole position of the year, and starting with another Volkswagen alongside him tomorrow. That'll be interesting. Lloyd and Huff on row 2. And confirmation, as I was saying, that Luca Engstler disappointed after such a promising run earlier on. And the top 11 covered by under 0.8 of a second. Right, Gianni Morbidelli taking his helmet off then. Alfredo Filippone is down with him. Let's see what our pole man has to say.
Gianni Morbidelli, superb pole and the first P1 of the season. You must be very happy.
After a very long time, so yeah, I'm really happy. I'm happy. I think, you know, we needed that. We needed because the motivation was a little bit very low. It's good. It's good. We had a good performance this morning in practice. We carry on with the same performance. We have to do something good tomorrow as well. We need. And I'm happy for the guys. I want to thank West Coast Racing. I want to thank the guys because they're working hard all the time. But until now, we had not the satisfaction that we expected. And it's good.
You told me earlier this morning that this is the first time you really feel the car is how you want it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I can drive as I want the car. And this is a positive thing because, of course, every driver have a proper style, you know, their own style. And until now, I was suffering a lot we struggle a lot with the rear of the car. And this time the grip is good, and so I can push, I can be aggressive, and as I want, and I did it.
Well done. All the best for tomorrow.
Good to see Gianni Morbidelli smiling again. He becomes the 6th different driver to take pole position in the International Series this year. This is how the drivers' points table stands then after qualifying. 5 points, remember, down to 1 for the top 5. And it's still Attila Tasci who leads the drivers' series by just 6 points now from his teammate Roberto Colciago. that's it then for qualifying here at Oschersleben. We'll see you tomorrow for the 2 races.